Welcome, Glenn. Good to see you in person. Well, kind of in person.
Good morning, everybody.
And we'll just give it a minute or two here to make sure everybody finds the link and gets logged on. And Leah, I apologize. I did not embed a break into the agenda. So if we have time, after subcommittee updates, we'll try and get 5 in there. But let me know if anyone needs a break and we'll make it work. All right, so I've got us just after 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:01. Welcome, everybody. There is a chat going on if you want to put anything that you're currently reading, listening to, or watching, or whatever you want. You can put in there. Feel free. So we are called to order. As usual, we'll start with public comment. Anything out there, Leah?
No public comment today.
Okay. And I did want to, so that as long as I put that in there anyway, you know, today is the 50th anniversary of the release of the What's Going On album. And, you know, when I watch the news in the evening and we see what's happening with the people of Palestine nightly, when we know what's gone on for the last year with the murder of George Floyd on our phone screens, I just think that in unfortunate ways, that song still and that album still really resonates. So I thought, you know, we could open the meeting again with a moment of silence to recognize the struggles of people around the world, including those in Palestine, including the ongoing struggles of people here. And just take some time to personally reflect however we choose. So let's just take a brief moment and reflect on what justice means to each of us. Okay, thanks everyone for that moment of reflection. So sorry, Glenn, to bring you in, in a heavy moment that way. Sometimes we start that way, sometimes we end that way, sometimes it just happens. But so get used to it. But we do get to welcome Glen Martin to the Governor's Educator Advisory Council. So I gave Glenn a bit of a heads up just this morning to let him know he had the stage for however long he wants to take to introduce us to him. Glenn, you will hear from Leah and probably Angela in the near future regarding when we'll get to meet again in person. So hopefully we get to, you know, a more personal feel in the future. But if you want to take a couple minutes and let us know, you know, a little bit about yourself and what you hope to get from us on the council, feel free to unmute and take it away.
Okay, well, I'm Glen Martin. I've spent the last 25 years working in education. I started off as a middle school teacher for a charter school company in Oak Park. And at present, I work for my community college as the director of the Upward Bound programs, where we provide tutoring, mentoring, and college access services for the first generation low-income students for the Beecher, Flint, and Hamady school districts. Basically, what I wanted to get out of the council was just a little bit of background on how the decisions in education are made, get an opportunity to serve in that capacity, and hopefully get an opportunity to make some impact. That's it. Welcome. Oh, and thank you to the governor's office and the council for selecting me. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Well, thanks, Glenn. And I did call Glenn on the phone soon after he was appointed, just let him know that this is an outstanding group to work with, and that I think that his hopes and expectations for the council will be met. So it's been, it's been a pleasure to welcome Glenn, and hope to get to know you a little bit better over the next couple of years. And I did forget about attendance. So before Leah has to remind me to get attendance done, if we want to do attendance, let's go ahead and do that, please.
Absolutely. If you could give me a verbal here, I would appreciate that. Owen Bandano,
Good morning, I'm here.
Zainab Chami,
I'm here, and I just want to thank Greg for that much needed moment of silence, and welcome Glenn. Thank you.
Eva Coleman,
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
Gigi Lincoln,
Good morning and nice to meet you, Glenn.
Kathy Longstreet, I see in the chat, Kathy said she had to step away for a minute, so we'll put her as absent temporarily. We've heard from Glen Martin already. Angela Perez,
Good morning. Welcome, Glenn.
Ben Pineda,
Good morning, everybody. Glenn, welcome aboard. Good to have you.
Lisa Rivard,
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Glenn.
Ramont Roberts,
Good morning. Good morning.
Ruth Lottie,
Good morning. Welcome, Glenn.
Mandy Stewart,
Morning, everybody. Nice to meet you, Glenn.
Greg Talberg,
Thanks, Leah.
Marcus Walton,
Here, and hello, Glenn. I can't wait to meet you in person so we can get rid of these warm, intimate greetings through Zoom.
And don't forget the good food we usually get.
I like food.
Jeff Whittle,
Here and welcome, Glenn.
and Glenn. I'm Leah Breen. I'm the liaison for the council between the department and the governor's office. Kelly Cassidy is also here. She serves as kind of my co-liaison for this team. In case I ever can't make a meeting, Kelly will step in. So that's our introductions. Thanks for the attendance, Greg.
Thanks, Leah. Okay, so the next item is the review and approval of April minutes. I don't know if anyone or everyone had a chance to review those ahead of time, but if you want to take a quick look, and then when you're ready, we'll just take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, so I think this one we could, oh, sorry, Gigi, go ahead.
I had communicated with Greg about a small update to a previous recommendation from the council, and thank you for your email, Greg. Was it at this point that I was to mention that item, or once the minutes have been completely approved?
Right after the vote, we'll come right back to it.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So any more discussion about the minutes? Okay, so Leah, this is one we can just do a quick voice vote, right?
We can, yes.
Okay. So all those in favor, please indicate by unmuting and saying aye. And if you want to raise your hand too, I guess that makes it extra clear. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. so
Checking Kathy's attendance one more time. Kathy,
Okay,
are you
thanks,
present
Leah.
yet? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the minutes have been approved. And so then at this point, Mandy does have some edits to our bylaws that we should be able to go through real briefly. But before that, we do need to make a quick amendment to the agenda. So Gigi, if you want to preface that, and then we can probably make the amendment real quickly.
Thank you. Recently, the council submitted a recommendation to the governor requesting her support of some pending legislation on behalf of school libraries. And our Michigan Association for Media and Education, MAME, has really appreciated the support from GEAC and subsequently from the governor's office. My school library colleague, Kathy Lester, who heads up MAME's advocacy committee and who has just been elected president of the American Association of School Librarians, so that's as high as you get amongst media specialists, has asked that GEAC put in a minor amended text to our original recommendation. This simply involves a different House bill number and the fact that a new legislator has come on board. So I can send the updated text to Leah, to Sarah, to whomever. And again, it would just be changing the House bill numbers and adding Representative O'Neill, who replaces Representative Pagan.
So, yeah, so to me, that just looks like mostly kind of housekeeping. So is there any questions or points of clarification needed for Gigi, or can we just let her send those updated numbers and names to Leah and keep the current recommendation as is? Sorry, Leah, I see you unmuted there.
Well, so I thought this was a motion to adjust the agenda for this item, or this was. So are we adjusting the agenda to include discussion on this item, or are we just?
Yeah, that was a plan, but let's just call me out of order and we'll just take it for what it is. Do we need? You see what I'm saying?
No. Could you give me some more words, please? Sorry.
Well, yeah, so I think as long as the council knows we're making these edits, we're not changing anything substantive. If no one's in opposition, we can just have Gigi clarify with your office the new bill numbers and the new representative. There isn't really anything substantive from us. So I thought we'd need an agenda item to edit that, but I don't think we do at this point. If you do, we can.
I think that you probably should make a motion to amend the agenda for this item so it's reflected correctly in the minutes. Okay. And then you don't have to go into a lot of discussion about it, but I think if you're making a decision about it today as a board, it should be reflected on the agenda as a decision item.
Thanks. So Gigi, you want to make that motion?
So I'm going to help you, Gigi. The motion is to add a discussion item to the agenda to revisit the recommendation for librarians that went to the governor's office.
Thank you. I would like
Leah, let's add that for right now too.
Okay. So is there anybody who would like to make that motion? You don't need to repeat it, Gigi. It's okay.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Or make it.
And second?
I'll second.
Second.
I missed both of those voices. Marcus, I think.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've put it on, well, sorry, any discussion on adding the agenda item? So we can do this one by unanimous consent. So anyone opposed to adding the agenda item? Okay, we'll call that approved by unanimous consent. So at this point, we can actually go to that agenda item. Is that correct, Leah? Okay, so Gigi kind of prefaced the change. We just need to update the bill numbers and the names sponsoring the bill due to changes in the legislature. So any discussion on enabling Gigi to communicate Leah what those editorial changes are to our past recommendation? Okay, so Leah, now can we just move to make the changes?
Yes, we should be. The council should know exactly what the changes are. So Gigi,
Okay.
if you had the number handy and the name handy so we could make the motion reflect exactly what would
Yes.
be changed, that would be best.
Thanks, Leah.
I can read that, and within a minute or so too, I can put the exact text into the chat and then of course send it to you officially. But the change in the bill numbers, we go from HB 4392, HB 4393, HB 4394, previously sponsored by Representatives Camilleri, Colazar, and Pagan. This now becomes HB 4663, HB 4664, HB 4665, now sponsored by Representatives Camilleri, Colazar, and O'Neill. And then that's at the beginning of the document. At the end of the document, those bill numbers are similarly recapped, and we will substitute the new numbers that I have just read. So basically, it's at the top of the document and at the ending of the document.
And I just placed those changes in the chat that Gigi read.
Okay, thanks.
Helpful,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to take a quick look at those changes, it's really nothing substantive. It's just, they're just procedural changes in the legislature.
And also, Leo, we have been directing media specialists and others interested to the location of the recommendation on michigan.gov documents. So we will continue to direct them there once those changes are in place.
Sorry, trying to catch up on my notes here so I can read the motion back. Okay. Is there someone who would like a motion to change the librarian recommendation to reflect the updated numbers of House Bill 4663, 4664, 4665? Sorry, I have to get my words right. Two updated House Bill numbers. And to reflect accurate sponsorship of Camilleri, Colazar, and O'Neill.
Leah, this is Lisa Rivard, and I will motion to make the changes that reflect the current updates.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Yes, who that was.
Oh, there was two of us. I did one. I don't know who, I didn't see who did the other one. So
Okay, Jeff Whittle, got it. Thank you.
So yeah, any discussion? Okay, so this one we probably need, do we need to do a roll call vote since it's an action item?
Yes, can you give me 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Greg, while Leah's doing that, can I ask a question then? Because when Margaret's doing similar to what I did, it seems like there's more changes, but the bills that we voted on before, I thought all I did was just send you guys the updated bill info. I didn't have any sponsor changes or anything in that bill, but it was just the House bill numbers. So if I didn't do, I thought I did that. If I didn't do that, should I be doing the same thing that Margaret's doing?
So is it because this one already went over to the governor's office for a recommendation and we're being asked to change the recommendation and resend it over? Because I can't send something back over to the governor's office on behalf of the council unless you've agreed to whatever changes your names are on.
Yeah, there's no changes. It was just, it's a new legislative session, so that just the numbers changed. That was it.
So I think that might be the difference is that Gigi's asking for a formally updated recommendation to go back over, and so we're re-voting on the changes to the new recommendation that would go over that reflect those things. And if you'd like to do that with yours, similarly, we could do the same process.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't want to add more work to anybody. I just wanted to make sure I was staying up to date, I guess. Sorry, I dropped the ball, I guess.
No, I don't think so. I think either approach is just fine. They wouldn't discount the recommendation because the bill numbers had changed. They would understand that that recommendation was still in effect.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so where was I? Okay, ready for roll call. Owen Bandano,
Yay.
Zainab, Zainab, did you unmute?
We're just voting to update the library recommendation numbers.
Yep.
Yes, sorry, I had a student in the room.
No, thank you, sorry. Eva,
Yay.
Gigi,
Yay.
Kathy? Absent. Glenn,
Yay.
Angela,
Yay.
Ben,
Yay.
Lisa,
Yay.
Ramond,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yay.
Mandy,
Yay.
Greg,
Yay.
Marcus,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you for your patience while I jimmied the minutes around while we were doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. Okay, so the next item, Mandy, do you want to take us through this next one? So it's just an amendment to the bylaws regarding canceling meetings. So, and just for the record, when I proposed this language change, I didn't plan to step down as chair. So you know, just to be clear about that, I didn't know that at the time.
Okay, so at one point in this last year, we did cancel one of our meetings because we didn't have enough agenda items to constitute a meeting. And what we ended up, we did that, and then Greg questioned, wait a second, bylaw committee, should this specifically be in our bylaws, how we process this and what procedures we go through? So we brainstormed a few areas and just added a sentence that says the chairperson may cancel a meeting at their discretion if there's no action items or timely business items on the agenda during the regularly scheduled meeting. So basically, if there's no reason to meet, we don't meet. And then council meetings can be canceled by the chairperson, same thing. So it needed to be addressed in two different areas, 4.5 and 5.1.
So any questions for Mandy or even me regarding those changes? Okay, and so the gist was I just didn't feel comfortable unilaterally canceling a meeting that we had all voted to hold. So I just wanted to make sure there was some kind of procedure in place to make sure that, you know, there was a check on that power, I guess. So is there a motion to approve the proposed changes?
I move to accept the proposed changes to the bylaws.
I second.
Second. Oh, you could probably put Ben's name. It's easier to spell.
It's not as cool as yours though, say that.
I can definitely spell both of them easily now.
Yeah, she reads a book a day or whatever, so she can spell.
Yeah.
So any discussion on that, those proposed changes? Okay, so seeing none, I think we can go ahead and vote. Are you going to take us through, Leah?
I do. Okay, starting with Owen.
Yay.
Owen has the distinction of having to be on his feet because he's alphabetically first all the time. I try and give a pause. Zainab.
It used to be me. Thanks, Owen. Yay.
Eva.
Yay.
Gigi,
Yay.
Kathy.
Yay.
Welcome, Kathy. Glenn,
Yay.
Angela,
Yay.
Ben,
Yay.
Lisa,
Yay.
Ramon,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yay.
Mandy,
Yay.
Greg,
Yay.
Marcus,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yep.
Last but not least.
The
Okay,
band
good.
having the W as my last name. I'm always towards the last anyway. Same. I'm sure Marcus feels my pain.
I can reverse it.
No, I'm all good. I see Owen's face every time, so I'm good.
Thanks, Leah. So Glenn, I apologize. Normally it's a little more exciting than this. So let's get to the fun stuff finally. So up next is the subcommittee reports or updates. And there might not be a lot from the subcommittee members or chairs to report on, but we'll the idea here is to get everyone updated so that when Angela Benenda from the governor's office comes in, we kind of all know where we are and what kind of direction we need or want from her. So Jeff, do you want to go first? Since you were, usually you're last, we can flip it this time.
Oh God, he's gonna use that against me. Thanks, man.
Wow.
So yeah, we're good. All right, next. No, I'm just joking. So we've met several times, and I think where we're at is we'd like to have a chance to review the other council's report and see in the area of student wellness, I believe was the name of the committee that would probably closely tie to us. We wanted to be able to review what the work that they've done, what they're recommending, and see if there's anything that ties over. What we want to do is see if there's any redundancies and try to cut those out of what we're trying to do. And maybe in our recommendation, we could use our recommendations to support or bolster other things that we might find like in their recommendation and that kind of thing. So we kind of wanted to take a little bit of time and push back our date so that we can review that, see what's in there, what's not in there, and then tailor our recommendations based off of that. But also we want to try to identify maybe only two or three items in our recommendations, and then look to other councils or committees that maybe are doing this work, similar work already, and then look at maybe suggesting to those councils or committees to look in, we could maybe make some suggestions to those committees for furthering work that they're doing. So that's kind of where we're at. In the end, we wanted to just maybe push it back maybe 1 month and just get a chance to review what's put out by the other council. So I don't know if that made any sense. If my other committee members want to speak on it and probably do a better job than me, then feel free to. But that's where we're at. Did I miss anything, committee members? Angela, come on, speak up.
You did great, Jeff.
All right. So yeah, I guess that's where we're at. I'll take questions now. Or none.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So the committee chairs and I met together probably 2 weeks ago, just to kind of figure out where we were. And it looked like, we kind of discussed several months back to take on some broader issues. And then I think what happened was those issues ended up being a little too broad. And then there's that other council that just released that blueprint yesterday. And there's just a lot going on that made some of that work hard to accomplish on the timeline we planned. So what Jeff discussed is kind of what we discussed in that council. And that blueprint was just published yesterday. So hopefully now that that's out, we all have a chance to take a look and see how that affects the work we're doing in each of our subcommittees.
I stayed up all night, Greg, reading it. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's not that long. So with that, let's go with Ben.
Good morning, everybody. So I was thinking actually how exactly to lay this out, because if I were just to lay it out, it would be about a 10-second presentation, because we have made a decision, Ramon, Zainab, and myself. But I'd like you to imagine that you are in a boat and it's not very big, and it's in the middle of Lake Michigan, and it's a driving wind. So directions are very cloudy at best. Which way is north, south, east, west? And you look around you and you really can't see anything. And I feel like as a policy committee, and Glenn, the committee that I am speaking about is policy, which is gigantic. So what falls under policy? Pretty much everything. Thus, all of Lake Michigan around us with no land in sight. And so we decided that the best way to do this is to pick one focus point. And that's easier said than done as well, because the focus point we choose has to be something that's meaningful, impactful, and at the same time realistic. And so we have decided our focus will be on taking on standardized testing, the Goliath of all topics. However, here's how it works. As we look around us, Ramon says, "Hey, look," and sees a beacon of light really, really, really far away, which is the end of the journey of reforming standardized testing. But it's pretty far away. And I don't know if we can just get there. Ramon, great idea, but dude, that's a long ways away. And then Zainab says, hold a minute. There's an island right there. We can get to that. And that's how I feel like our committee is going to function. We've got the standardized testing goal way off in the distance, but in order to achieve that goal, because all of us know this is maybe the steepest mountain to climb nationally and at the state level, we're going to have to get to that beacon of light from one island at a time. And so I think the charge now for Zainab, Ramon, and I, and this is my shameless plug, that we would love to have other GEAC members join us in this Herculean task. We'd like to start with some pieces that are more manageable, maybe grassroots. For example, and again, this is not anything in stone. For example, maybe talking to university personnel about possibilities in the state of Michigan of waiving an SAT requirement for admission, or at least making it only an optional potential, where someone might say, I don't want to do the SAT, I want an interview, I want to write an essay, or something like that. And wouldn't it be nice if when we get on this island with MSU and U of M and Ferris, you know, and maybe some private colleges, Adrian and Hillsdale, that we start to get some dialogue. And this dialogue now has teeth. And all of a sudden we're building a bigger boat and we can get to that other island. And I just feel like we need to give something to the governor's office that is tangible and realistic. And I also think when we think of that beacon of light way down yonder, which is really far away, this policy committee will probably last for a while, tackling various things along the way. So getting MSU and U of M to waive the SAT requirements is a very wonderful step, but it's only one in that direction. And I don't think we have a shot unless we have people that we have talked to involved in the discussion. And so ready to make recommendations. And so that is what we've decided to do as policy, to narrow it in toward standardized testing, to see what kind of reforms are possible. We need some help on generating and brainstorming ideas like talking to universities. And then we need help brainstorming ideas on where's the next island and what is the next island. So that's the policy committee's update so far.
Any questions for Ben or that committee in general?
Marcus has a comment.
Hi, Ben. Yeah, I love the analogy. I love it. And I guess I can give you another one, because this time last year, if we're in a time machine, what happened to standardized testing? They were suspended. So that's the precedent about how you said about what can be accomplished. If there's a big enough disaster, and standardized testing basically is a disaster, change can be accomplished if everybody's on one accord. I don't know what we have to do further to demonstrate that standardized testing is not an effective way to evaluate students. It's not an effective way to evaluate teachers. You have teachers right now worrying about evaluation scores being linked to student growth and using a standardized test in the middle of a pandemic. Get real. Get real. And unless we have that reality base, that compass in the fog, it will forever be us going around in circles. And that getting to the policymakers, I think most of my frustration comes from the policymakers aren't educators. And they just drop these decisions from afar that have these rippling effects for decades.
I actually have a comment. I put in the chat, there is a website called fairtest.org. That is a group of counselors and higher ed individuals that do track the test optional schools in the country. So they keep that pretty up to date. Many more schools went test optional because of COVID in Michigan as well. But there's one thing I want to point out that happened as a result this year is that we did have some schools in Michigan that were test optional that had not been before. But the issue became is they were test optional for admissions, but not for full scholarship consideration. So a student didn't have to use their test score to be accepted, but to hit the highest marks of scholarships, you had to have a test score. So then there's an equity issue because there are many private schools that had no issue having their students get their SAT tests, and those kids have had maybe 2 or 3 in their back pocket at this point. And so scholarships that are set up for those most deserving students, there's a whole population that didn't have any access to them. So I think you're hitting the right spot, and then that you want to talk with higher ed about this, because until that changes, unfortunately, I think the state providing a test where a student doesn't have to pay for it is helping to level this uneven playing field because of the parameters that are currently in place. So not that I'm a proponent of standardized testing, but I am a proponent of my student having an opportunity to do it for free in a situation that I provide. So that's just another, it's a complicated issue, but I think until you talk to higher ed and they change that piece, like it's gonna actually serve to possibly hurt those underrepresented populations even more.
Well, thank you, Kathy and Marcus. Welcome aboard to the Policy Subcommittee. You have been knighted. You're in.
Are you sure you didn't have a question, Zainab? Okay. No other questions for Jimmy Buffett over there? All right. Lisa, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I just had wanted to say that taking it from that equity and access lens is imperative for our work, even in other areas. So I appreciate Kathy bringing that piece up.
Thanks. So it sounds, Ben, to me like, based on the comments, that the council in general is supportive of the direction you all want to take. So if anyone does want to join Ben, he has mentioned a couple times over a couple meetings that they are welcoming other members to that committee. So feel free to reach out to Ben and probably Angela if there's any changes that you'd like to make to committee assignments, or I guess you could theoretically be on 2 committees if you wanted to join both. So Ruth, I don't know if you had a chance to check your email, but I didn't want to put you on the spot. Well, I'm putting you on the spot, but I apologize. So if you want to give a quick update from our committee, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have too much to say. I have been I took a leave of absence actually from work for medical reasons, and I did not have access to my email or my phone for about 3 weeks. So I am a little bit behind, I guess, in my emails and my research actually, because I'm looking at a lot of the things that I have been working on and what I have been working on with other people. And I think like if I just am able to spend a little bit of time on it, I can put something more cohesive together, because I had the great opportunity of joining the subcommittee. So like the Student Recovery Advisory Council, the other council that we know exists, post-COVID, that was organized by Governor Whitmer to make sure that we had a way for the students to be able to recover from the loss of education in the last year due to the pandemic. I was able to join the subcommittee that was called Innovation and Redesign, which is essentially what we're doing in GEAC as well. Our subcommittee is talking about innovative ways to be able to preserve public education in these changing times, and what we're supposed to do. So so I have a lot to share on that. Do I have something prepared? No, like for you right now. And we don't even have the time. Even if I had something prepared, I knew we only had about a half hour for these updates. But I do want to meet with my subcommittee sometime soon. So I hope we can chat later about when that can happen. But anytime next week, I am available to be able to discuss this, and I will have something more comprehensive set up. So maybe not on Monday, but like, Tuesday or on, I would be available to talk about this. But I did in the chat include the blueprint. So this was just released yesterday, the Michigan Blueprint for Comprehensive Student Recovery. And that was what was put out by the entire committee, the entire Student Recovery Advisory Council. And so I had a very small role in helping out with the innovation and redesign for that blueprint. But like I said, it's in the chat. If you guys all, I encourage you guys all to take a look at it. I have only skimmed it because, but I have to say they did an excellent job. They, from what I've seen so far, the work that they did in that council is actually like quite incredible. And I think that we should take that work, and apply it to what we're trying to do in our subcommittees as well. So I hope, Ben and let's see who, and Jeff, the chairs of the other subcommittees, if you take a look at that, I think that will help you also to organize your work and to make sure that there are no redundancies and that we're all on the same page. Because really, in working in that subcommittee, I found that they are, as educators, because for the most part, the people that are on these subcommittees are educators in some capacity, or have been, and they really are on the same page as we are. So we want to make sure that we are taking all of the good information that they found and the good research that they discovered and apply that to what we want to say to the governor as well. And if you do see anything that obviously you disagree with, then that would be something that you could bring up as well. And so we're in that nice position to be able to do that. But yeah, other than that, that's really all I have to say for right now. I did see some of my emails even just this morning. I just recently got back home and have been readjusting to things, and I will work on that this weekend and next week. And so I hope to meet again with everybody in my subcommittee so that we can get something. We wanted something formal to happen. We do have a pretty good, draft of our presentation and of what we want to say to the governor already. But I know our deadline is to have that done for next month. And so that is my goal, is to make sure that we have something that is solid, that we can share with the governor's office by next month. And so it might take more than one meeting. Sorry, subcommittee, but I promise that I will do a lot of this work because obviously it's something that I care about, I'm interested in, and now I have time to do. So, so thank you. Any questions for me?
Okay, thanks, Ruth. So, and I think, so one point of clarification, I know that when we first convened, the governor's office was sensitive about us calling something a policy committee. I'm not sure why. So I think the original name for that policy committee was longer. So we should probably stick with that in our formal communications because I think they have a policy team and they didn't want there to be confusion between their team and what we're doing. So we'll just have to make sure we're careful about that, anything we publish. And then Ruth, I think that even if we have our draft ready to present in June, we probably shouldn't plan on voting in June just so that the council can kind of fully absorb and think about it before they have to vote. So we'll probably, at this point, and again, well, I'll talk to Angela and Leah between now and June, but we'll probably not have any proposals ready to vote on in June. So I think we should probably bump that timeline just to make sure everyone can process. And at this point, there's no real reason to rush either. So any questions for any of the chairs or me at the moment?
Greg, right when you started talking, I noticed Ben had said comment. So I think he does have maybe something in comment to what Ruth was explaining.
I just wanted to clarify with everyone that our subcommittee will not be ready to present anything to the governor's office in June. And we don't have a date. I think a lot of it is, let's see what direction we want to go to, what that first island is, and then move from there. So just wanted to let everyone know that we won't be presenting any recommendations this June. Also, Greg, I don't know the formal name of I thought it was Policy for Education Subcommittee. What's the fancy name? What's our real name?
That might be it. We just have to be, I'm not sure exactly why, but the governor's office was definitely sensitive at first when we tried to form a policy committee. So as long as we publish stuff, we just use the extended name, I think we're good to go.
Should I add then, to make it more specific, the language of standardized testing reform?
Oh, yeah, if that's our focus now, that would probably actually clarify the purpose of that.
Okay,
subcommittee.
very good.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Thanks. Any other points of clarification or questions or comments for any of the chairs, committee chairs?
Yeah, Ben, I had a question, Ben. I mean, this is questions for Greg. You made mention of a report that was presented yesterday to the governor about education. Is there any way someone could put that in the chat so I can review it?
I did put it in the chat, Marcus. There is a link up there. There are a bunch of numbers. I mean, it starts with www.michigan.gov and then a whole bunch of stuff, but that is actually the blueprint there.
Okay, thank you, Ruth.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Okay, well, we do have a guest at 10, but I think at this point we could give Leah and team a 10-minute break if there's no other conversation to be had at the moment. And then if there's conversation following Angela, her discussion with us, we can always come back to anything then. So does anyone want to move to, is that all right, Leah, if we break for 10? Okay, so does anyone want to move to break until, let's make it like 9:58 so we're all ready for Angela when she joins us?
Greg, I'll move for that. But before the whole council breaks up and we end, I just want to ask, can I have I don't know what the term would be, point of privilege or whatever, at the end, to just for 2 minutes?
Sure. I mean, at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, or whenever after she's done presenting.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So Jeff moved to take a 9-minute recess until 9:58. Is our second?
I'll second.
Second.
I think Mandy beat Marcus to the punch. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, let's call it approved by unanimous consent. Let's try and be back on by 9:58 so that we can keep Angela on target. Thanks, everyone. Leah, have you heard from Angela Menander yet?
I have not. We could, we'll need to re-adjourn first.
Okay, so it looks like people are rejoining, so we may officially re-adjourn and end our break at the posted time. So go ahead, Leah.
Thank you. We may want to, I see that we don't have an agenda item on here to discuss the June meeting and the July meeting, whether those will be held, where they will be held. We may want to add an agenda item for discussion before that, before we wrap up. And any other general business, which we didn't have on here. I think we missed when we planned the agenda.
Yeah, Leah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because of course I have to plan, travel if I'm going to be there in person, but hopefully we can meet in person. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
So Leah, are you comfortable doing that right now? And then we can just pause our discussion if and when she shows up?
Yeah, at least getting the agenda item added.
Okay.
Because that'll take a minute.
So I'll go ahead and just move to add an agenda item to discuss the calendar and meeting locations and formats through October or upcoming. Is that good enough? What's best worded?
Let's do through August.
Okay, through August. Is there a second?
Second.
I think I heard Gigi.
I think Owen got it.
Oh, sorry.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on adding that as an agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I think, can we just do a quick vote on this one, Leah?
Yeah.
Okay. So all those in favor of adding an agenda item to discuss calendar through the summer, please just raise your hand and say aye. Go ahead and unmute and say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we have that
We need
added.
to, I'm so sorry, Ramont, did Ramont come back or has he still stepped away?
No, I think he might be away for a bit.
Okay, so Ramont is absent from the vote.
Yeah, thanks, Leah.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so any opposed? Sorry. Any abstentions? Okay, so we now have that added to the agenda. I still do not see Angela as a tile on my screen. So let's go ahead and start that discussion with the understanding that as soon as Angela joins, we will come back to wherever we leave off. So Leah, what do you have?
Well, first, is everybody aware about the transition of the chairs? Because that plays into this conversation. Do you want to cover that, Greg, or?
No, I think there's not much to cover. But yeah, so I'll probably need to talk with Leah and Angela, and then Angela will kind of guide that process over what that looks like. So I think
just making sure everybody knows that we're transitioning from Greg to Angela. I'm not sure if everybody knows that yet.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Angela will be the chair beginning the next meeting. I'm not sure when the official technical start date is, so that's pretty exciting. I think for all of us, it'll be nice to have a change in vibe. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, so Angela, did you want to add anything right now?
Just that I'm really humbled by this appointment, and that Greg, I don't know if this is a proper place to say this, but I really appreciate your leadership and also the conversations that we've already had. I hope you don't mind me sharing that. But when it was announced and the governor's office contacted me, Greg called me right away and was so gracious and absolutely fabulous. And one thing that I said to him, I said, "But Greg, I'm not you." And he goes, they don't need you to be me. So I just want, that just meant so much to me. So as far as the agenda though, and meetings, we just need to discuss what's happening, right, Leah? And make a decision. I don't know though what the
Yes,
constraints
I can
are.
help with that part of the
Okay.
discussion. Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that there was a transition and visit that for a moment. Congratulate Angela on her appointment because I don't think we've had the opportunity to do that yet.
Yeah, I should have built that in. Thanks, Leah, for
No.
bringing it up.
Okay, so on our agenda, and we're checking on Angela too to make sure she's still available, separate from this. So on our agenda, let me just grab our meeting schedule here. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Leah, while you were looking, Ben had put in the chat that he had a comment.
Oh, Ben, go ahead.
I just want to say, Angela, congratulations. You are going to rock it because you are you, and that's just awesome. I just think and I just also wanted to say you've got some really good tutoring that you've been able to watch these last 2 years with Greg. And Greg, I just wanted to address to you formally in front of GEAC just how much and I know I speak for all of us, appreciate your leadership over the last 2 years. You know, being a leader means so many different things. And, you know, I think some of you know this, but Greg does leadership behind the scenes like you wouldn't believe. We've had some really amazing GEACs. We've had some very difficult GEACs. And I still remember a time when out of the blue, Greg calls me just to ask, you know, how are you doing? You okay? And that is the sign of a tremendous leader. And I just want to say, Greg, thank you so much for starting us off on an awesome, awesome path on the right foot. Kind of like George Washington, right? Good thing that we had someone that was really capable to start things off. I still don't like the fact that he owned slaves, but or enslaved people. But I just think it was so important for us to move forward properly, and you really allowed that platform consistently every single solitary meeting. So Greg, congratulations on stepping down, because that's going to be kind of, you know, that'll be a good thing as well, a transition for you. And but thank you for your service. It's been very much appreciated. And Angela, congratulations.
Thanks, man. So I don't have a lot to add, but so Leah, did you want to go on with the calendar stuff?
Yes, I can. Okay. So as you may have all read in the news, as did I, it looks like the state employees will be returning to work. That will likely change our ability or provide additional flexibility to our ability to function as a council. What has not been made clear yet, currently we still have restrictions on funding that we cannot get approval for anything that isn't related to a state mandate. So reimbursements for travel for all of you, because there is the opportunity for us to still meet virtually, I'm not sure they would qualify as a state mandate. So I do need to check on that with the governor's office as we move into June, July, August. I will say so June was scheduled to be virtual currently, July was scheduled in Lansing currently, and August was the UP currently. I do think we need to change the venue for August, because in order to get that planning, I would need to get approval for that funding to move forward starting right now so we can get things scheduled. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get that quickly. So I'd like us to consider a couple of things. Oh, also, I am absent in July. We did bring Kelly in knowing that I was going to be absent in July, so she can handle that meeting for you, but that is a consideration. And we may have other absences in July to consider, because last year we weren't going to have a July meeting. We had a July meeting due to the pandemic. This year we decided we were going to revisit it and see if we wanted to do a July meeting, or that would be the month that this council would take off. I know potentially, Angela, if you don't mind me saying so, Angela may have a conflict, and so your chair may be absent, so that is something for the co-chair to consider, and we need to make sure that if that potentially happens, co-chair is available. So those are the full considerations, but I want to take them one at a time. I was just laying out the 3 months for you. So June is virtual. And so the first question's on the table. I think I would like us to keep June virtual unless, so I guess the first question is, does anybody want to wage a strong consideration for changing June to some kind of in-person meeting if that is possible?
No, but you guys were supposed to come to Dearborn. This is the second time. You guys need to come here at some point. I need to feed you the Dearborn food, like you should try it.
We thought we'd pick up where we left off when we could go back or like try and, revisit. So I did see a nod from Ben. Ben, did you want to make a comment?
I just, I'm okay with July being off, especially, I'd be okay meeting too, but you listing absences and potentials and we did the first year take July off, just for the summer, but I'm happy to meet if you guys will meet. And I would love to see y'all in June for what it's worth in person.
Gigi has a comment.
I would propose keep June virtual. We're off in July. We reconvene in Lansing in August and then pick up with the traveling schedule and we hit Dearborn. September-ish, October.
So just to help Leah out, so let's take June 1st. Is there anyone opposed to just keeping June remote? It seems to me it'll be difficult to do it in person, just because they'll still be opening up their offices and things in those state buildings. Okay, so Leah, let's just keep June remote.
Okay.
And then any more? I don't mind having July off either. Any more discussion about July? So Leah, do you think we should leave it on as a placeholder or go ahead and cancel July right now? Or Angela?
I think you all can, I guess I'd recommend maybe an informal vote and see where people sit. And certainly if everybody unanimously wanted to skip July, we could go ahead and do that. And that is at the chairperson's discretion. Doesn't require a formal vote, but if you're curious about everybody's feelings, you could take an informal vote. Are people comfortable with that approach? Yeah, okay. Would you like me to go ahead and do that for you, Greg?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. If anyone wants to put yes or no to July, that's okay.
All right.
Yes, cancel or no cancel.
And can somebody just confirm the date in July? I'm sorry.
23rd.
Thanks, man. I voted for who?
I'm so confused. Are we voting or are we saying we're available?
We're just
okay, let's just do this. Let's do it verbally. It would be easier, I think, if you don't mind, because I'm going to have to write them down anyway.
Chat. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to read it.
No.
I was trying to do an informal poll as to whether we wanted July at all.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. All right. Okay, thank you.
But it'd be, if you guys, I'm seeing it in writing, so we can just do it verbally. I mean, you're,
okay.
And if you abstain, if you don't have an opinion, that's fine as well. So, so the question on hand is, do we want to cancel the July meeting? Do we want to cancel the July meeting? Okay, I'm rephrasing the question, and I'm just going to go across my screen because I don't have my thing pulled up. Greg?
I don't have a preference.
Okay, hold on. Eva?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes, I am in favor of canceling.
Gigi?
Yes, cancel.
Ruth,
I'm gonna say no.
Angela? Sorry, no, I'm not doing it in the right order, so I'm catching y'all off guard.
Yes to canceling.
Jeff?
I am in favor. My district goes year round, so I would appreciate that. We're working.
Canceling?
Yes, we're working the whole summer. So.
Okay. Oh, I gotta see who's behind my box here. Lisa?
No preference.
Mandy?
Cancel.
Ben?
Yes, to cancel.
Marcus?
No.
Glenn?
No preference.
Kathy?
Yes to cancel.
Zainab?
Yes.
Okay, didn't miss anybody, did I? Oh, Ramon? Ramon, are you muted?
He's still mine. He
He stepped away.
texted, he messaged me, Garland Gilchrist is in his district and he was trying to greet him. So he,
Just want to make sure we gave him the opportunity.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
informal poll is 3 people with no preference, 9 people yes, and 2 no's. So
So
Greg,
should we just
that
put
is-
that as an action item for June to?
It's
to
actually at
cancel?
your discretion according to the bylaws that we just approved. So
Oh,
if there aren't agenda items or,
okay. So one of my last actions is just to cancel July. Let's have some fun in July.
all right, duly noted.
All right.
So that takes us to August. We have not reached Angela yet, so she may not end up being available today. So just giving you a warning to think about that. So we're reached August, noting that it will probably be difficult to plan UP in August. We need to likely change the location. And so we can either choose a new location now, choose a default to Lansing if we're going to do it in person, choose a default to another place, choose virtual, or we can wait until June and see what happens and gives ourselves another month with budget and return to work and see if we want to pick an option in June.
Isn't it in the bylaws that if we meet in person after a long pandemic break, that we meet at Angela's house or our chair's house? That's what I heard anyways. I might have read that wrong.
We could totally do it on the shores of Lake Michigan over here. It would be great.
Oh, that would be lovely.
So
Discussion,
Leah,
thoughts about that?
Leah, do you expect more clarification in the next month that would make us better informed regarding August?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, we might. I have found that during this, we have gotten very last minute information. And if the earliest we're expected to go back is July, I wouldn't expect a lot more information by June, but maybe. Maybe funding. I could ask some questions about funding in between there and the
So so 3 options were to just plan it remote, plan Lansing, or plan a location that's not as far as the UP.
right.
Okay.
Or table it till June and revisit.
Angela, what do you think? You want that tabled for June?
You think
I
we
do.
would be,
Could
do you
because I
think we
do.
would be able to make a more informed decision in June?
I mean, it wouldn't be a less informed decision. So if nobody has any pressing need to know what's going to happen in August, then I think it would be okay to wait a month.
Then I feel like then we should probably table it till June and make a decision then.
Okay.
If everybody feels comfortable with that.
Anybody maybe put in the chat if you want to discuss, note it as comment in the chat right now. Mandy, did you have a comment on this one?
It wasn't on the August plan. It was actually going back to realizing, going into the bylaws, when Greg decided to step down, I also side messaged and said, maybe I should be stepping down as well and offering new leadership opportunities as vice chair. That's a voted position. So I was just throwing it out there that this could be my last meeting and we could vote next and put that on the agenda for next meeting to have a new vice person.
So Mandy, I mostly stepped down because when I was first appointed, I sat with Leah and we looked at the EO and it basically, there was no mechanism for the chair ever leaving. So potentially I would just be chair indefinitely or for 8 years. And it just seems like with our group, that's not necessary and doesn't necessarily even make sense. So that's the only reason I'm stepping down. I don't necessarily know that, we weren't a package deal anyway, and we all actually selected you and voted on you. So I don't think you need to feel the need to leave because I'm stepping down. So
well, I just think it might be a good opportunity. We have a lot of new people. Then Leah asked the smart question of, go check the bylaws. Did I have a term limit? And I actually am already past the term limit and I just didn't know, which is pretty sad since I was the chair of the bylaws committee. So apologies to everyone. So
I would appreciate consideration, Mandy, sorry, if we could leave, if we didn't transition the whole leadership team at the same time.
That's exactly what I just put in the chat. Yeah.
So if you could give me a couple more months grace to get Angela onboarded and then we could move over to onboarding a co-chair.
Sure, whatever's easiest for anyone. I just want to make sure that I'm not holding this really important vice chair position hostage for anyone.
Oh, and to Mandy's point, I would say the same about the secretary position, if that was a consideration as well.
Okay, so let's bring both of those. Here's what I would recommend. Let's put them on the June agenda for discussion with the timings and the decision about the transition of them and the term limits and information about the positions, because some people are new and they don't have information about that. So we'll add that as an agenda item, that the positions are opening or when they're opening, and we'll transition and how that works. Does that make sense? Discussion for June and then potentially voting in August if you're all ready to do it in August. Okay, works. It looks like we had some confusion about scheduling and Angela is not going to be able to join us today, Greg.
Okay. So, so Angela, you'll probably need to connect with Angela and just figure out. So the idea of having Angela Benander here was that to kind of rethink or discuss sort of how to do our work moving forward, maybe make us more of an actual advisory body as opposed to a recommending body as we've been doing. So I was hoping we'd have that discussion with her all together instead of just behind the scenes. So so I'll just kind of hand that off to Angela and Angela Perez, and they'll work with Leah to figure out how we have that discussion. And maybe we just keep the same dynamic moving forward. Maybe we decide to make some changes moving forward. So but thanks, Leah. We'll just connect with her when we can, or someone from that office when we can. So we made a couple amendments to the agenda already. Leah, are we done with the calendar and leadership issues?
Yes, unless anybody has anything. Angela, did I miss anything? Because you and I touched on this briefly earlier this week. Okay, then I think we're good. Thank you for checking.
Okay, so we're at the wrap up and adjourn the committee of the whole point. I know Jeff wanted to exercise a point of privilege. You want to do that now?
Sure, I can do it at any time. You could adjourn the meeting. I'll just do it by myself. But well, thank you guys very much. I just wanted, I'm not offering any kind of resolutions or anything like that. And I know this is a path that I've worn down pretty well for all of you, but being a support staff, I feel like I want to speak on behalf of support staff throughout our state. And I don't want to get emotional here, but what has been happening to support staff before this pandemic, and it is really, like everything else that we've all been through, has really been highlighted. I want to just remind everybody that we are an important part of our schools, our communities, and to our students' education. And what has happened during this pandemic has shown me again that we are constantly forgotten about and not respected. And what I said in my earlier speech months ago was how educators feel so disrespected and forgotten about. Well, try being a support staff. When a student comes to school, they probably see 4 or 5 support staff before they see their administrator or their teacher. That's just a fact. The first person they see in the morning is their bus driver. Then when they get into school, they probably see the secretary, custodians, maybe some paraprofessionals, maybe their security officer before they even enter the classroom. During this time, we had to fight to get included in the state's grant program, the hazard pay program. That was months long. Now in the summer, if you're a K-8 paraprofessional, the summer school grant program hazard pay, COVID hazard pay, is $1,000 for a teacher, $250 for a support staff. Now, what do you think that says to every single support staff? We're worth 1/4. 1/4. It's not right. It is not right. Those 2 bills that I worked with for support staff to be able to apply for grants to go to college to earn their degree and help solve the teacher shortage, that would not only help solve part of the teacher shortage, also diversity, retainment, all of those things. It's going nowhere. I'm not fooling myself. I can't even get a committee hearing on it. What are we supposed to do? In our schools, the best way that I can explain what a support staff does is we are like spackle on just a completely devastated wall. We fill every crack, every nook and cranny, and smooth that stuff out so that our students can have a better education. And we are constantly overlooked, never part of the discussion. It is not right. And it breaks my heart that we have to consistently fight and speak loud and louder and louder and louder, and it's still overlooked. 1/4. How would you feel about that? And what you guys do? I'm a special education paraprofessional for 29 years. Let me remind you what special education paraprofessionals do in classrooms. They're giving catheterizations, tracheotomies, not to mention all of the toileting duties that they're doing, feeding tubes, suctioning, and we're worth 1/4. And in the end, when the grant program that happened, that's right now, in the end, I'm a post-secondary paraprofessional. I'm not even included in that. I don't get the state money. And I was there every single day. As a matter of fact, I'm a job coach. I was out working in the community in the worst parts of our pandemic. And I get nothing. Now, my district stepped up and noticed that mistake, and they're going to cover us, which is unbelievable. And I'm eternally grateful for that. But if they didn't, nothing. Not one bit of acknowledgement for what it is that support staff do. And I know I'm a pain in the dupa I bring this up all the time, but I'm not going to apologize for this. I'm not going to apologize. I know we have so many different school staff here in many different positions, but we are a council, the educator, the Governor's Educator Advisory Council, educators. We are educators. We are part of the educational team. This has really, really hurt me. And for us to not be, now I'm not speaking on behalf of me because my district goes year round anyways, but for K-8 paraprofessionals that come in to not be available, to get 1/4 the payment was Another slap in the face. And I know many of you that have been on this council have heard me go down this road many, many times. But here it is again. So it proves my point over and over and over and over and over again. We are always left behind. Always. Try, a great example of this. In Detroit, the para-union president, who I know very, very well and is an unbelievably beautiful, knowledgeable person, when those teachers were getting their hazard pay money from the district, not talking about the state, from the district, they completely left the parapros out and forced them to go into the buildings while the teachers could stay home. They had to bargain for over a month to get what the teachers were getting as hazard pay while staying home. So you think that there's a teacher shortage? Wait till there's a support staff shortage and see how your buildings are going to run. I don't care how great of a teacher you are. You aren't doing anything unless the bus driver picks them up, unless the custodians clean those buildings, the food service workers give out that food, and the paraprofessionals do their jobs in the classrooms with these students in these communities. And we are a more diversified group than the teachers are. And that is proven by data. And yet here we are.
So Jeff, while you're pausing, Mandy did have a comment in there if she wants to add something.
I'm sorry to go. I'm not sorry for my content. I'm sorry for going on. So let me make that clear.
My comment is absolutely in support. I think when you're expressing this and we see your passion, it's not against this council or our roles. It's in general shouting into the void that there's a need, because our district is already experiencing those shortages. We are desperate for paraprofessionals. We're trying everything we can to recruit, but they're looking at the job and then the level of respect you get, and they'll work someplace else. Because exactly. When we treat our support staff this way, why would they choose this position? I was in the bus garage yesterday because our head of transportation, who is essential to us, is very, very ill and in the hospital. And I'm talking to the bus drivers who they know every kid who's going on their bus. They are the first person they see, and we can't get enough bus drivers. And that was huge. In our areas, there were people who didn't get access to education because we didn't have anyone who's willing to do that role because of how they're treated. So I do wonder in general if this is something that we want to tackle as a governor's council, to specifically talk about recruitment of support staff and the level of respect and attention, and maybe even like a PR campaign, because I don't think people realize what paraprofessionals do. I don't think they realize how important bus drivers are and how important food staff is. I mean, all summer long, we were doing grab and go breakfast and lunch, and that's how our people got fed. And this was at the height of pandemic. So I would love to propose the idea that this is something a subcommittee tackles, and maybe we have to flesh it out a little more, but it's important work, and I think we need to do it. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you very much.
Marcus has a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And to Jeff and Mandy's point, I think it was just last week in the news, they had a story about the bus driver, I think it was in North Carolina, and the gunman came on with an M16, and they were like kindergarten students in the back, and the bus driver didn't break a sweat. He drove the person that was on the bus. He was able to get the students out. I think part of it, look, when you're a special education teacher and you have that touchstone, I'm used to like that marriage between support staff, teacher, parapro, occupational therapist, OT, PT, speech. I can go through the alphabet soup because those are all the individuals I need to educate that child. But once again, this goes back to the mindset. There needs to be a fundamental shift, a reimagining of how education is done. And I'm not sure we're getting that, because everybody in this Brady Bunch square gets it, but we need to talk to these wonderful policymakers who are clueless.
Exactly.
We need to direct this venom, and venom's good, to the people that's sitting down with a pencil and pen, and they're coming up with these absurd policies. Or otherwise, if they're not hearing what's happening on the ground, if they're not hearing the hell that people are catching, there is no change. So I'm almost at the point where I want to recommend that every time we have a meeting, somebody from the educational committee from Lansing is like present, or or minimal, this tape goes to them so they have to view this, to understand what's going on in education. Otherwise, it's forever clueless, forever.
But Marcus, it even is on a, you're right, absolutely, 100%. There's a disconnect between the legislature and the fundamental understanding of how schools work, how they move through their day, and how dependent they are. But let me just give one more example. I know of a school district that gave each of their teachers 10 COVID days in case they had to quarantine. They gave none to the support staff, who had to go unpaid if they got COVID. It's disgusting. They're probably making 20 grand, and they're going to make them go unpaid if they happen to catch a pandemic, COVID. It's anyway.
So Kathy's off the screen, but Zainab did put a comment in there.
Well, Jeff, we're always happy to listen to you because I learned from you. I've learned to use the term educator versus teacher. I've become more aware of the educational community because of you. But I just want to say, we've been doing this for a couple of years, a lot of us, and much like the standardized testing issue, I think what we run up against is this lack of political will to change anything. And I just don't know. I think we can change things. I just don't know how we can tackle that in particular, because that seems to be our biggest impediment to getting anything done. I mean, we've had these multiple existential crises as a council, like, okay, so how do we make ourselves more effective as a council? Even now we're saying, well, how do we make ourselves more of an advisory council rather than just a recommendation council, right? And there seems to be a gap between the political elites in Lansing and us. And I don't know who fills it, how to fill it, what we do to fill it. But I think this issue and the standardized testing issue in particular, I think and I'm talking about, we're all here for students. Ethically speaking, for our students, these are probably two of the most important issues to address immediately. So that's my comment. I'm kind of throwing it into the ether right now. And I don't know if anyone has anything to say to that.
Thank you, Zainab.
So it looks like Leah has a comment.
I did. I actually had a question. Marcus, twice today I've heard you say policymakers aren't educators and policymakers need to pay attention. And when you say policymakers, I'm curious as somebody who works for the department, because policymakers are typically Department of Education folks. Do you mean policymakers or lawmakers at the legislature, or both of those things?
I mean, our wonderful elected officials in the House of Representatives, in the Senate. And we all know and that's one of the major problems. I'm not even sure if they're aware of this council, the vast majority. And if they're the ones that's pushing these bills through, teacher evaluation laws, 40% growth component, or otherwise it's ineffective, budgets, so parapros don't have equal pay. They're not addressing the fact of the teacher shortage. We have almost like a mandate. We have to be the ones that's raising the hell to motivate that change. Because if we keep, is it going to come from that direction? It has to come from us. And that's like something that we have to let that marinate at our next, maybe in the month of July when we're not meeting. And I think that's we have to begin there.
Thank you. I just want to make sure if part part of the message was for the department that I was carrying it appropriately for you.
I'm sorry, I want to jump in. I put comment in the chat. I'm sorry. To Marcus's point, Representative Darian I can't say his last name, Camilleri, who I'm in Dearborn. He's a downriver representative. So he's like maybe 15, 20 minutes away from me. He's a former teacher. So, and I've run into him. So I've talked to him. And I think he may be one of the only folks in Lansing who actually understands the day-to-day functionality of a school. And so I think it may behoove us to potentially invite him, and I don't know, just a thought.
Before that, Eva had a comment. I just want to make sure that's not lost.
I just wanted to comment on, add a little bit more about Marcus, what Marcus said, then I'm done. So not only should those lawmakers just take a look at, our video and that, it should be mandatory for them to spend a week in a classroom, a week in a school, not a day, an entire week. Then that way they know exactly what takes place, because a lot of them are not only out of touch, they don't know what's going on, and they're making these laws. So that's my only one comment,
Sorry, Eva, by the way.
That's okay. You're
Passion rules the game, right? And then Gigi.
First of all, Jeff, never apologize for anything that you say to us, that you put in writing. You are standing up. We respect this. We've learned so much from you, and we want to support you, and we want to be part of this fight. Zena mentioned Representative Camilleri, and I'm not pronouncing his name right, but he is the one who has spearheaded the school library legislation as well. I'm very grateful for what you did today with updating the GEAC school library recommendation. And that document, even though it's not going to completely push through those bills, is very powerful. Similarly, and I was just guided by Jeff's example earlier in the fall when he asked for the endorsement for the similar bills for support staff. Let's keep doing that approach. It doesn't cost anything, and yet it is a tool to put forward these important issues that need to be acted upon. Now, the other thing that I would be very grateful for, and Lee, I don't know if this is possible, but some type of a nod from your higher ups at MDE, if Superintendent Michael Rice could also be a spokesperson for standing behind what Jeff is talking about right now. And that's certainly, a very complicated issue, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But Jeff, you stay with it, and we're here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak on that. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate your suggestions and your kind words as well. I don't want to put Owen on the spot, but I would love to hear your perspective because of how you've come through your education. You were a parapro and now a teacher. Again, and you don't have to answer. I am putting you totally on the spot, and I know you're gonna write in your diary that Jeff's an idiot. But do you have anything to add? Did I say anything that you agree with or that you have found in your time as well?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Jeff. And I think we all do. And I know, as a para, I struggled. I was a para while I was in college getting my teaching degree. And so I was that case where I was working full time and going to school part time to finish my degree. And I still I think one of the indicators of how difficult it can be when you're in that kind of a case is the fact that I had to basically survive on charity to do my student teaching because I couldn't work as a para while I was student teaching. Those things overlap in the middle of the day. And you have to work for free for a semester in order to finish your degree. And it's not like you make enough as a para that I could have saved up beforehand and covered that cost. You know, I ended up surviving because my in-laws gave me a very generous loan that got us through that couple of months. But you know, that I think that goes to show the larger issue that we want to build these pathways for people who are already in the profession, who are already passionate about this and have valuable skills that are useful. Because I can tell you that I learned so much as a parapro that I never learned in my college classes that helped make me a better educator, you know, right my first year being a teacher. And so I learned so much from that experience, and yet there was no pathway, there was no assistance. And we undervalue those people tremendously. It's hard for me to articulate it properly, but you know, I'm fully experienced it just as you do, Jeff, and I saw it from, and now I see it from both perspectives, where I was in that position and now I see how others are less valued, or you know, it seems strange to me that you're right. There are many aspects in which my school and my classroom and the other classrooms in my building would not function without our support staff. So it seems silly to me that these people are not as valued as teachers.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your perspective on that. Thank you. And you're right. As a para, you learn, well, because you're part of the team, right? When you're in college, going to be a teacher, they don't teach that that teamwork aspect of it, but you have that experiences, and that's part of what I bring, you know, to that bill. Is one of the things that I mention all the time is, as a para, you are a part of a larger team, and they don't teach that in college. They don't teach that in any class. There's no team building that I'm aware of anyway. So, but thank you, Owen. I appreciate that. Thanks again,
Thanks,
everybody.
Yep, thanks, Jeff. So any other points of order or business that we need to make, any resources or anything we need to ask Leah or her team for, or anything we need to let Angela know to prep for June as we get ready to close out here? Okay. Oh, sorry, Ben.
I just wanted to know if there's a tangible decision made in regard to what Jeff is putting out on the table. And Mandy, I really appreciated your comment as far as the subcommittee. I think this is worthy of it. And back to Zainab, what you said, these are things that obviously there's so much that needs to be addressed right now. But these are two things, standardized testing and the parapro situation, that impacts our kids so, I mean, every single solitary day. And so I'm just wondering, do we have something that we can start in June on the agenda to address this, so that it doesn't just stay in our memory banks as a passionate discussion, something that's tangible? And I don't know, Jeff, if you had any ideas, or if you've already talked about this with Greg and Lee, I wasn't sure.
Because this wasn't an agenda item, we have to be conscientious about actually discussing it. So what I will do is I will follow up with Angela right away, and she'll figure out how to get that on the agenda. One of the things we'll struggle with, of course, is that we're already in committee. And so trying to add something to existing committees could be complicated. And perhaps Angela Benander will have some ideas about how we can, you know, maybe she does want to put us in front of an education committee in the legislature or something, although I don't know if those committee chairs would welcome our participation necessarily. But yeah, we just have to be careful about having discussions about non-agenda items. But Angela, is it safe to assume that we'll follow up soon?
Absolutely. I think this is very important, and we need to follow up on this.
And Angela and Greg and Leah, I want to apologize. I don't know when the right time to bring this up, because it just keeps going on. And I definitely didn't mean to add Angela's stepping into this, you're leaving, and it wasn't my intention, but a lot has happened since the last time that we've met. And I just wanted to put that out there. That's really all this was. And I appreciate everybody's input and suggestions and all of that. I wasn't coming to you guys with any kind of pathway forward. I just wanted to make everybody, I wanted to continue to make everybody aware of what it is that us as support staff continue to go through. So I appreciate every single person. And I do want to apologize to Greg, Angela, and Leah. That was not my intent. Secretly, it was a hope. I'm not going to lie, but I just needed to, you guys are my peeps, and I needed to get that off my chest. So thanks.
So let me clarify one thing. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be on a different tile or in a different seat at the table. And you know what? I'm tired of it, Jeff. I just quit. I'm stepping down. So a couple things to wrap up. I don't know that we did this last year, but again, reminding us, like Jeff is doing, of what we're all here for and who we're all here for. We did have 2 graduating classes, the graduating class of 2020, and now I'm especially sensitive to it because I have a senior in I don't know where she is right now, but she's around here somewhere. There's a spoken word poet named Shane Kojan, and he, in one of his poems, he talks about how that we're the graduating class of We Made It. And I kind of feel like that sentiment applies to these 2 and perhaps next year's students as well. So I just want to make sure we recognize in our council that we had some graduating seniors in 2020, and we have a whole new crop of them leaving our schools and heading on to different things. I don't necessarily know there's anything bigger and better than being a student, but to different things in their future. So I want to make sure we recognize that. I also want to welcome Angela fully. Angela mentioned that she is humbled by the honor, really, of serving as chair of this council. And I'm going to speak for Angela just briefly. I think the reason that this chair is so humbling is because when you look at the faces around the table, including Leah and her team, really, the fact is any of us could chair this this council. So knowing that you're making your best attempt to lead people who could easily be leading you is really humbling. And Angela, and I know that the fact that you feel it, that sense of being humbled by the experience only means that you're going to do an even better job. So I just want to thank everyone. Even today, as we get procedures and things mixed up, it always seems really easy for me, no matter what mistakes I made. So Angela, you had plenty of mistakes that you got to witness, to learn from. So feel free to take those experiences. So at this point, unless there's anything else for Leah or Angela, we could get ready for a motion to adjourn, I think.
Like Gigi might have a comment.
Just another thank you to Leah for keeping us on track and that everything is according to procedure. And Greg, in addition to celebrating class of 2020 and 2021, all of us as educators and council members, give yourself a pat on the back. We got through this too. And, I may not be informed, maybe some of you are going to be leaving the profession, but I think many of us are signed up for next year and will continue to do a darn good job. And as always, it is just a privilege to work with all of you.
Thank you, Gigi. And I do appreciate, Greg, the acknowledgement of the graduating seniors. I have one also. It's been a tough year for them too.
Congratulations, Leah. Wow, congratulations.
Hey, Leah, I'm sorry, just a quick question. Will Glen's email address and everything be added on the GEAC so that we know how to include him in? I just would like to include him in my list of GEAC email addresses is all.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get that updated.
Prepared, Glenn. I'm going to hammer you with no, I'm just joking.
And before we get that motion, I do have one more small item. So Angela, I did promise Owen that when we meet in person, we will invite Owen back. So I'm gonna just push that promise on to you. Sorry, I wrote a check that I can't cash, but I'm sure that won't be a problem. But just to be clear, and so Glenn, Owen has never met and Eva has never met in person either. So we all look forward to getting together in the near future. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any opposed?
Checking on Ramon's attendance. Ramon,
Oh.
did you join us? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the LG can talk a bit. So, all right, seeing none, we'll approve the adjournment of the meeting by unanimous consent. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the warm weather as much as you can.
Take care, everybody.
See you in a month.
See you next month.